Welcome to the Root Cause Podcast, where we dig deep into the world of agriculture and uncover the techniques, tools, and technologies shaping the future of farming. I'm your host, Callie Whitwell, and today we're diving into the role of data in modern farming and how it can lead to better decision making and improve yields. Alrighty, y'all, welcome back to the Root Cause Podcast. Today here we have a new face with us, Nicole Glenn, a field agronomist, and we also have Josh Thurman, also an agronomist, Caleb, Silver Oak Farms, farmer, CEO of Root Cause, Profit Max, all of the above. Today we're going to discuss data in the farming industry. Nicole, I know you did a lot throughout your time working and in college and everything. Do you want to talk about it a little?
Yep. So I grew up on a farm in Owensboro, Kentucky. I think that's really where most of my interest in, first of all, farming and in data management kind of started out. And then I went on to go to university. So I got my agronomy degree, a bachelor's, and then I went on to get my master's. So for me, I think previously we've been looking at what is that golden ticket for a young individual to have before they come into the industry. And one was going to be sales, so I had a bunch of those sales internships. Two was going to be the agronomy side of things, so that was ultimately, going to class and learning those things. And then lastly, I wanted to wrap it up with research. So I think, being a graduate assistant at Mississippi State really showed me, protocol and just how to collect some of that data that we see in the field that I think can be really crucial for farmers to know, especially with margins being so tight like they are right now, to be able to narrow that down and really figure out where our inputs are going and how much they're giving us at the end of the year.
Okay. All righty. So you said you went to Mississippi State.
Yep.
That's cool.
So lots of cowbells.
Oh, yeah. All righty, Josh. I know you see a lot of data where you're from, what you're doing. Do you have anything you want to say about that?
I call it data.
Data?
Is it data or data?
I think it's data.
I say data.
Caleb, which is it?
We'll go with data.
Data.
Oh, my God.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, there's a lot of it, There's a lot of data out there, but I think from a farmer's perspective, it can be paralysis by analysis because you see so much. And it's funny how everyone's, own data corroborates their own narrative. So it's kind of hard to.
So you got customers that do a great job with data. And you got customers that's always got this, this happened, this is going on in this field. So Nicole, how did that work in Owensboro versus Mississippi State? Could you get data out of your family? Is it easy?
Yeah. Well, easy is not the term for, I think, many farmers. But I think there's a big difference between, farming in Kentucky and then there is in Mississippi and even the Delta. I think my family has seen the value in data management, especially over the past couple of decades. I think overall we've been able to look at three different buckets, in my opinion. So, we've been, getting a lot of information from planting measures to fertility. And then I think the big and bad dog is going to be yield, which most people look at nowadays. And we've been able to make a lot of decisions based off of that. So if we think about hybrid and variety selection, we've been able to narrow that down when it comes to it, maybe variable seeding rate or fertility rate. We've been able to alter that and maybe some side-by-side comparisons. So those were kind of the metrics we were looking at on the farm. But now we have so many different platforms, technologies to be able to pull from, which can be overwhelming.
Yeah, we're drowning.
That's my point, man. It's paralysis by analysis. On your farm, you've been here farming how many years?
25, 7, 8 years.
Okay.
30.
Okay. How many on-farm trials that the data was so consistent and so validated that that's something like? How did any of that revolutionize what you were trying to achieve, or how you went to achieve it?
So we've done thousands of trials.
Thousands.
There's no telling how many this year, because now with the data we can just have we're just going to leave a strip out.
Right.
But out of all those we've done, how many would I testify to? Less than 10%. Because there's always another if, or this happened, or the sprayer turned here and the driver didn't run across the rows, or different soil type, just all those different narratives, got drift from something. So So, it is important, very important, and it's very hard to do. Not many farmers are going to do it. It's a process, and then you got to have a set objective before you start, and you got to follow through, and it's hard to do.
I was about to ask that, because I can't define it. What is a good data set? How do you manage a good data set? Like, what are the steps? What's the protocol? What does it even mean?
I don't think there is one
Where
certain
does it start
way.
then?
I don't think there's one definition for that. I mean, everybody's going to be different.
Literally every single operation. I don't think I've been on one operation that exactly operates the same as their neighbor.
We live and die by definition, so we have to be talking about something with some congruency here. So we have to talk about something unilaterally, so people understand that, though. Like,
I think yield is probably that one that most people are looking at, but I don't know if that's necessarily our talk, is it? When we're looking at different soil metrics, because we're going to have to be looking at a lot of things other than yield. And I don't think that protocol has been built out, for a lot of the things that we're trying to incorporate, whether that be, your micronutrients, your biology. There's so many other things that we're going to have to look at other than yield.
that's what I was hoping you was going to say,
Yep.
because we're so hell-bent on hybrids, planting population, nitrogen rates, fertility rates, and yield. My man Caleb over there, only data he likes ROI.
Yeah, that's it. And,
Big money guy.
Yeah, so that's the bottom of it, and then you go through the metrics, but then the weather can just, So if we say we're going every Monday morning at 8:00, we're going to do X test on this spot in the field, but you can't do that because what if it was cloudy all day the day before? Or what if it's pouring down rain? Everything's different. So, Josh, tell us about when you did the soil testing, what you learned when you went back to the same spot and pulled it how'd you do that?
It'd be a good time for the soil test labs to cut off for about 20 seconds. It's, what I noticed was you're at a 40% range. It's called, I'd be a 20%, or 40%, 40% range, 20% gradient on either side of zero. Yeah, that's how that would look. So if zero, it's called the number 10. It could be 12 on one side, 8 on the other. If that number's 20, it's going to be 20. It could go up and down 20%.
So you went to the same spot?
Yeah, same spot
What'd you
over
do?
and over. I went back, pulled the same core for a whole year. And that's when I knew that I knew nothing. That's when I was like,
Confirmed.
yeah.
It's powerful. Yeah.
Not only did you not think you were clever, now you know you're not clever because the data points told me nothing. Let's look at a pH swing, man. So let's call it, I can't remember exactly what it was, but doesn't matter. It was 6.2. It could have gone down to 5.5, up to 7, depending on what was in furrow, what was spread, this, that, and the other. And you look at your P and K numbers, up and down, up and down. And then that's when I started having a notion that, well, biology is a higher function component. That's not the talk. The talk was that data didn't mean anything. It meant that I was trying to make decisions based off something that was stasis in February for the rest of the year, and that did not sound like a good idea to me.
So like on my personal there with, 90% of those that I wouldn't testify to, the test results, that data has the ability to make an influence on me as well.
Right. We was up at Jared's the other day, and I didn't mean to cut you off. We were talking about pulling dirt, Jared Brown in Ohio County. And he had a bucket out there. He said, you're going to put dirt in this bucket, and this is going to be representative acre, and you're going to get a speck out of it, and you're going to tell me what I need. But he's not wrong when he says that.
So, Josh, what is some of those, tangible things that we can be looking at, in your opinion? And I know this, this isn't protocol that you can read, from a book or find online or talk about at universities. In your opinion, what are some of those things that we need to be looking at if we're incorporating some of these things onto our operation? So cover crops, biology, micronutrients. As a farmer going out there, leading them out there as their coach, what are we looking at?
Because there's no, you ask about the other data sets. Go ahead.
So I asked Josh earlier today, really the only true test is to go in the forest and see what's adjoining your property. Is that right?
Yeah, the best thing we have is a Haney test probably right now, and they're going to come out with quorum sensing, but that's not right now. But anyway, yeah, you want to go out and see what the data should look like? Go out to the old growth forest and see what it is. But you ask what the steps were?
Yes. Yeah. Well, like what protocol are you looking at if we're not looking at yield and all of those
I
things?
was reading a book from Arden Anderson, and I like his data points because he humanizes data points here. He says it's not the point of this topic in the book. It was I think this is in Life and Science, if I'm not mistaken. But it was go out to your field, listen, touch, close your eyes, and feel, and sense it. I know everybody's thinking, no, but he's right.
That hippie.
I was literally thinking hippie in my head, and I was like, I ain't going to say it.
But my point is, going back to you, there's so much data out there that it can be skewed one way or the other. And here's a bad thing. Go back to old growth forest. We're so far removed from true zero. Let's call that baseline. We don't even know how to get back there because there's no data to even get us back to that. No test to get us back to where to start from for the correct path. But going back to your point, the data suggests we have to introduce changes. But the thing about introducing changes, we can't introduce the whole cupboard at one time because then we don't know where we got our responses from. So
don't wear your shoes out in the field.
that was it.
Feel
That
the
was
dirt.
it. Yeah, electroconductivity.
What is that called? Grounding or whatever?
Yep.
But I think that's what it is. You do one thing at a time, see what moves the needle, and see what does not. But should we move our data point, going back to what you were talking about earlier, yield? What else should we start measuring then?
Aggregation.
Now we're getting somewhere.
Yeah. The skin of the soil.
Now we're getting somewhere. Perhaps the mineralization, the components, the mineral components of our crops, protein content. I mean, you're not going to move corn to 50% or nothing, but like if it's 8 and you moved it to 9 or 8.5.
And back to your point earlier, that one speck of soil. So we're farming in an acre, 12 inches deep. That's how many pounds of soil?
4 million, 12 inches, 2 million on 6.
Yeah. So that's the sandbox. That's the
It
box.
is.
That's a big old sandbox.
Yeah. So that's where we got to get back to. I mean, we got to correlate all that backwards. And I'm
even more confused now that we're talking.
Yeah. The more I know, the more I need to figure out.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so to help farmers, Caleb, like what type of information systems do you use to keep track of this, to keep your ducks in a row?
So, I mean, we've tried too many things. We're back to now just what's coming in from the equipment. I have a guy reading the data, going through it, because you can just literally don't put this product in this tank mix, and you can look at that. So it's all GPS based now, which I'd say the data is getting much, much better, but there's still always that story, and I don't drive the sprayer, so there's always another issue. So
Your data is only as good as the one that's pulling it or trying to analyze
Let's
it.
assume someone out there is not involved in farming, they're learning. How many data points, and could you just name off right now that you're tracking on the go now? I mean, the number of data points, it's
Astronomical.
It is astronomical.
Overwhelming.
yeah, I have no clue.
Is it 100? Is it 10? I mean, I don't know, but
It's more than 1,000.
that's what I'm getting at. It's paralysis by analysis. So how do you deduce something from that when there's so much of it? Because then I'm sure there's
Because I'm just a farmer. I just want to make money with the cheapest way possible.
Join mastermind calls and engage directly with experts and thought leaders. Get personalized answers to your toughest questions and connect with a dynamic community of like-minded professionals. Grow together and create opportunities for success. Sign up today at rootcauseag.com.
Yeah, I think looking at trends maybe over time. So one of the biggest stories that I've seen this year is actually going to be on our farm. So we were able to plant soybeans that last week of March. Quite a few people were able to get in there. So in that specific field, we looked at, so we came in the fall, breaking up some of those corn stalks to break up some of that residue. And then we came back and just lightly dusted it with that turbo till right before we planted those soybeans. And at the end of the year, or I guess it was mid-season, came out there, put the drone over it, some aerial imagery, and you could see right where that tillage tool was. So we overlapped the tillage pass on with that planting pass, and you could see right up and down through that row where there were some compacted areas were. So there was some dead plants all throughout that field. So I think it was very valuable that we were able to, look consistently over the fields and see where we ran that tillage tool beforehand, just lightly dusting it. Did, I think, more damage to us than anything. Maybe we need to look at maybe just doing the tillage or not doing the tillage whatsoever. But the minimum till, I think, this year was not beneficial for us.
But it's layered data, so you extrapolated something from that.
Yep.
But you had the wettest May on record.
Yep.
So next year you may not have a wet May, and it may be right the opposite.
Yep.
There it goes.
Yeah.
Okay, but I do like you brought up drones. Drones are getting so popular nowadays. It seems like everybody's using them. And I know they're starting to do the sprayer rigs and setting that up, but I think it's neat that you used that and incorporated that into your data.
Oh, absolutely. Having a bird's eye view of fields is it's awesome, but it can also be very scary. So I know I did a bunch of different looking at drones this year in a different scenarios. So there was a lot of premature death happening in Middle to East Tennessee, where they were going through pollination, just didn't have any moisture for those plants. And I really wanted to see, where those specific areas were. And that largely came down to looking at that planting date and then the planting conditions. So by going over and looking at the farmer's system that they put all that information in, we were able to narrow down where we really saw issues of premature death happening first, and that was where they came in when planting conditions weren't ideal. It was a little bit too wet, so you could see that furrow all the way down through there all throughout the season. Those roots were sidewall compacted, so that's where the plants didn't have enough water and nutrients to be able to fill out, and they died. So
That is so cool.
yep.
Are you doing any of that?
I was thinking about something else.
Oh, well, what is it?
Let us know, Josh, please, enlighten us.
Who's to say data isn't used to propagate a failing system?
Bum, bum, bum.
I know, we
mean,
need to get our little
Right?
board up.
I mean, what do you think? If we look at 80 to 85% of studies launched from land grants being from the
Yeah.
top tier folks, man, you
Yeah.
know?
Yes.
I mean, let's drink your Roundup, right? You're supposed to drink Roundup because it's safe, right? Glyphosate, sorry.
Heck yeah.
Drink glyphosate because it's safe. No one drink that. But I'm saying,
Yeah, it was PSA. Please,
studies,
no one actually do that.
data, however you want to say it. When I was back in the early 2000s and the early aughts, shout out to the old days, they said that it was safe to drink. It was safe to drink. They got that passed because humans do not have a shikimate pathway, but guess what does?
The biology in your stomach.
100%.
Second brain of the body.
That's right.
All right, Callie, let's get back on our paper.
We
Data management.
Oh, mate. So other tools, technologies, what else do you use?
I use a lot of software on the computer that I import a lot of planting data with, spray data, mainly hybrid data. On my end of things, I like to do some sap analysis. I'm not a big tissue guy. I think there's some things that has to be worked out for that. But as far as what I want to get into as data, I think sap analysis will be the best data that we get into going forth and what we plan to do here going forth. But as far as my guys, with the guys I work with, a lot of them are still interested in what hybrids are performing on what soil types and things of that nature, overlaying your yield maps with your varieties or your soil type maps. That's pretty common.
Yep.
Caleb, so how do you know if it's worth these farmers spending their money on to do these tests and to do your agronomist can tell you to do ABC, but how do you pick what you're going to do?
So I was going to add that to Josh. So you do a lot of ground checking, truth, and during harvest, you can still go back and see if the planter did a good job that led to those plants dying. So, it's in depth. You got to go around the world and back, and then you got to sit down and analyze all that and put it together to summarize to have anything. So that's the big missing link that most of us just don't have the time to do.
I
that.
see what you're getting at here, either consciously or subconsciously. You're getting at, that was only good for this year. So next year may be a completely different year.
So I farmed 30 years, and I've never had a repeatable event.
So you level the, so then you should level the playing ground, which can be done.
Yeah.
But I don't know if there's any data to suggest that yet. But that can be done. So in doing that, what propels you to make decisions on your farm year in and year out? If you know the data's flawed, I don't know if flawed's the right word, but if you know the data can be variable, then what propels you to make the decisions year in and year out?
Yeah. Well, I mean, just like with biologicals, that's what all the big talk is. But if your farm has been going down, if your soil structure has been going negatively for 30 to 50 years, one little episode of biology is not going to cure that. Is that fair?
It's a systematic approach,
Yeah,
and
certainly.
most farmers are not as patient.
So
as
if you're an
we need them
ROI
to be.
farmer, you're saying, hey, I didn't make a return. So you quit too quick.
Yep. I think, the goal of that is, with it being a systematic approach, is eventually, once you start building up that biology and just letting those soils work for you instead of against you, having better porosity and whatnot, you're not going to have to do a lot of the management decisions you do now, whether that be pulling away from, fungicides and whatnot. So I think we need to be looking at that. I think we need to be looking at the qualities of soil and obviously you guys have to have a return on your investment. That's very important. But in the long run, that's everyone's goal.
Yeah. So it's an investment.
But it's like you said, I don't remember where we was at. You told the guy we didn't get here overnight. But this is where our tent is. That's where we're sleeping right now.
Yeah.
So is it easier? Then would the data suggest that it's easier to stay where we're at or to change? Then that's a whole other thing to talk about, but you might not want to talk about that.
Well, no, actually, that's one of my next key points. In other episodes, we've talked about how farmers are so hesitant to change. Nicole, what are you seeing on these? So data's been here forever. We've always had some form of data, but things are being more data-driven now. We have more technology. We have more information systems. We have more of all that stuff. How are you seeing farmers switching over to this? I mean, how's that going?
I think technology or data is something for some people. It's hard for them to be able to digest, especially if you think about some of the older generations. They're just not used to that, and I think data management on the farm is going to have to be a piece of everyone's farm, especially if you think about the masses and the transparency that a lot of the consumers are demanding from these farms, wanting to know how these practices are implemented on the farm. So I think the more data that we can accumulate, maybe the more that we can protect ourselves. So we also think about, things going on in like Europe. There's big shifts happening over there with pesticides moving, labels changing, and you're going to see a lot of people fall out. So I think there's only a matter of time till we could see some of that stuff over here. And having those data points on the farm is going to be necessary for us to be able to, even farm on any scale.
Well, I think with time that's going to change because the older generation will wean out. And I hate to say that, but I mean, it's a circle of life. But I went and saw a guy the other day, and great guy, great farmer. But I was like, well, what kind of technology do you use? He's like, well, I drive an old Massey Ferguson. I don't.
Nothing wrong with it.
Nothing's wrong with it. And his farm's great. Mm-hmm. But you can't pull that data. We don't know. We can't see.
Mm-hmm. We want to be able to help you in every way we can.
Yes,
be able to have those different points to look at makes our job a lot easier. Mm-hmm. And I'm a big proponent of small scale farming. I think that's what makes the world go round, and the heart and drive is still there in some of those operations.
Oh, yes. And that tractor's not going to break down. Like the newer ones have all these issues. I mean, I'm not going to say it's not going to break down.
And they know how to fix it once it does break down. Whereas now you have to run it through
that older generation on fixing things.
Well, it goes back, though. It goes back to circling the wagons. Nobody knows your farm better than you. All the data in the world. I'm not going to say data. Y'all had me saying data a while ago.
Data's the way.
Them Southern folk, man.
Yeah, so we look. All the data in the world it doesn't stack up to experience. So, and it goes back to the listening, the looking, the touching, the feeling, getting your hands in the soil, because nobody knows your farm better than you, no matter what data suggests.
Yeah. And the one thing the data is telling us is we're overproducing the product that we're producing. Right. So
at low quality.
We may have to differentiate the American farmer. We may have to produce a higher quality product. And it's not going to be easier to produce. It may be more like it may be not more acres. It may be more ROI on smaller acreage. To your point.
And to her point, I think you asked her question, started this off, and you said the big one was yield. That's a volumetric. Perhaps we need to deal in weight, something more dense, something more minerally dense, because weight is weight, yield's volume. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what, as you just said. So, I mean, let's think about that. So all the data, it leads us to the promised land of yield, okay? We're crossing the land of milk and honey, a 250 bushel corn. That's what we've done because the data led us there.
But who has put that into our brains that we need yield?
Exactly. That's what I'm to his point into what you're getting at. So what does that do? What does that data led us to if we all start making 250 bushel corn? Then what happens to the American farm?
Which is overproduced more.
And then what happens? The markets,
so,
right? It's inextricably linked to the markets, and the markets tank.
So now, break evens. When I was a kid, 100 bushels. We were tickled. 100 bushel corn, 30 bushels of beans. Today, that's laughable. That's half enough. That ain't even half enough.
Still tickled, just the other way, huh?
Yeah.
You're laughing a different way.
One of those two things that are guaranteed in life is death and change. Mm-hmm. So I think it's important that we are evolving in this manner. And I was listening to a John Kemp podcast the other day, and he was talking about this. This could be botched a little bit, but in the Netherlands, they have some grocery stores where the farmers are setting their price. So obviously, based on everything that they're doing, they're able to do that. Now, what if that started happening over here? It would only make sense at the end of the day, and I think that would be so much fun for the farmer. And secondly, they're going to need a bunch of those different points, those data management points, to be able to set that price. So, just comes around again to make sure we're doing as much as we can to collect all of the data on our farm as we can to make ourselves marketable, because that's going to be a breaking point that we see now with all these markets. Is people that are able to make some of these changes are the ones that are going to be able to survive.
There's right smart more people willing to wait in line at Walmart than a farmer's market, isn't there?
Yeah.
Good point. Yeah. Unlock your farm's full potential with Profit Max. Gain access to advanced tools and analytics that identify key areas for increased profitability. Work with professionals who create farm-specific strategies for your farm's unique challenges. Ready for success? Start with a personalized consultation at rootcausag.com.
Convenience.
You hit it, man. That's the crux. That's the crux of the American dream right there. But
So
yeah.
I guess my 30 years in farming, the data is telling me one thing majorly.
What do you got?
So the input providers are doing good.
Oh,
Really?
They're doing
We
good.
didn't know.
The universities are doing good. Not the equipment dealers. I'm not going to say. I think they're more in our farmer. Taking
Local,
They're
the
like local dealerships.
taking the brunt.
so yeah, you're talking about the tractor.
I think the
dealerships.
corporate, I think all those people have got a very upward hand on us. Then I think about, we all want to own land, but that's really a tough one too. I mean, you can't get a 5% return on farmland in America.
No.
I don't think.
Not around here you can't.
No.
But do you think we can get to that point? To where we're not trying to push people to farm more acres, but to manage what you do have better.
Absolutely. And, I'm not drinking raw milk or,
Hey, there's a
Walking
person
around
that sells
barefoot.
raw milk down the road.
I know.
I'm going.
I saw that.
Yeah. Well, y'all go ahead.
I see it every morning.
But, I'm not saying that that's the total, but I'm just saying over the 30 years, tried and failed, the overall movement of the data is what we're doing is not working as an American farm.
That's what I was going to ask you from an
Preach.
experiential perspective. What has data done for you? What is it? I mean, I'm asking.
That's
Yeah.
a tough question.
Yep. So, and then, as we get older, we interpret that data different. So the 20-year-old Caleb took that data as a challenge. The 45-year-old Caleb is saying, "Oh Lord, I'm going to be
Pinching
retirement
my
age.
pennies over here.
This ain't
My
going
moving my
good."
Should have
pennies.
read more data back.
I should have learned how to read books, in high school like everybody else.
Then
So
you'd just be on this side of the podcast desk.
yeah, and it's a much better side. He has Thurman lives a perfect, he does what he wants to do, plays guitar,
You're leaving out the cutting the back and hauling hay.
Yeah.
Reads
yeah,
books.
So, yeah, but at the end of it, I mean, I think that's a big turning point for me is that, the data's telling me this isn't working. And
Well, the thing that kind of grabs me about the data, though, it's those who are vested in data, and everyone wants to buy your data. They don't want to buy your data just because they want to help you out. I promise. Promise that's not what it's about.
right.
And it's those companies are conglomerations who want this data.
Right.
They want that. They want to take it all in. So they're going to get some value out of it. But at the end of the day, does the average farmer, I still think the good data sets that present themselves as something we can make decent decisions off of at the end of the day are still going to be hybrid choices or what else? What am I missing? Okay, nitrogen rates. The one data point that I saw recently that kind of blew me away was drone data on spraying. That was one thing I saw that kind of blew me away. You want to unpack that?
Yeah. So what we do at our different locations is we attach these spray sensitive cards to either it's going to be the top of the canopy for soybeans
Right.
or right there on the air leaf for corn. And if you look at the spray droplets, there's going to be a lot more coverage when it comes to those fungicides when you're using the ground rig. But then if you look at the drone, there's just these little tiny specks on there. But you have to think about and unpack what is in those droplets. So the percent AI is much higher when it comes to that drone rig because you're going from 20 gallons an acre down to 2 gallons to the acre. But you also have to think about what we've been told previously of how fungicides work. So they're translaminars, so that means where they hit on that plant, they're not moving hardly at all. So where they land on the plant is where they're protecting, is what we've been told. But so there's a lot more to unpack there. Just obviously having to break down, those different data sets. Getting confused over here now, to be able to understand what is going on, because some of the things that we have been told our whole lives or, through my 6 years of school,
coverage.
yeah, is coming to be maybe not the truth, or there's just a lot more that we have to unpack there.
That's data.
Yep.
But that was a data point that one of the first I saw in a while. I was like, okay.
It's time to get back to the books and try to figure things out.
100%.
Yeah, and I put the company put magnets on my sprayer one time, to make the particles charged differently, and then I guess all the new Deere sprayers or most sprayers have that pulsing thing. So yeah, there's a lot to all that. And
Yep.
who knows? You
have to find people like Thurman that are willing to break all of that down and figure out maybe what the root cause, of what is actually going on there.
Yeah, we just have to read some more books and find some people smarter than us.
That's exactly right.
But at the end of the day, though, we are where we are. I guess what I'm saying is, and I'll say this, I speak for none of you. I speak for me only. Josh Thurman, if you're coming for someone. Is I think a lot of data propagates a failing system, and I'll go to my grave with that. I mean, because those who present that with you are the quickest to tell you that what you're trying to do cannot work because their data don't support it. Well, how would you know when you don't have any data the other way? I just think, it goes back to why everybody wanting to buy data as well, but there's nothing out there data sets has been revolutionary in the last that is pushing our profession in a better direction.
Moving the needle in any sort of way, or putting more money in the farmer's pocket.
That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Is there any data that's putting more money in your pockets?
More money in my pocket, not yet.
Okay.
I mean, I say that. I mean, yes, there's certain things.
Hold on, let's hold up on that one for a second. So if you think about some of these sustainability programs or carbon markets, first of all, you had to have 2 to 3 years of I think historic field data to be able to get some of those dollars. Not all of them are like that, but I think a lot of these markets that are trying to buy your carbon, that is I wouldn't say necessarily easy money, but
yeah,
it's money.
Yeah, so that side's out there, I don't know. It's I just go back to what you were saying. So they want to buy our data. Everybody wants to buy the data, and how much data do they buy in the third world countries? Probably not a lot.
I'm going to say none.
The ones that have got our prices below the cost of production, the partners that have got us under the So, so that's not fair. The root cause of that is not fair for the American farmer. But I don't know how we combat that. We have to monetize it.
Well, look, financial data is the only thing that matters for you right now. When set corn's $7, we can pour through a lot of data and really have our thinking hats on and act like we give a damn about it. But right now, what matters is what you put on that spreadsheet. That's the data that matters for you and your family going forth, and it has to.
Right.
Because they can give you all the data points while their products work. But when cost of production exceeds revenue, what good's your data?
No bueno.
No bueno.
Yep. No, I think it's easy for us to sit here and, preach in these microphones about all these different management systems. But at the end of the day, we do know that you operate off of return on investment. And a lot of people just miss that. You are a business at the end of the day, but you also have to, feed your family.
Right.
Unlock insights with podcast exclusives. Gain access to bonus episodes and behind-the-scenes discussions with industry experts, delivering in-depth perspectives you won't hear anywhere else. Equip yourself to tackle complex problems effectively. Subscribe now at rootcauseag.com.
Yep.
Okay, so we've covered a lot in a short amount of time. What are some, each of y'all, what is your key point, key takeaway? What did you get from this? Who wants to go first?
Don't
Start
get your
over
cart
there.
in front of your horse.
Well, no, I low-key want to change the name of this episode to, what was it? What were you saying? Paralysis?
Paralysis by analysis.
That is perfect. I feel like that summarized
That's
everything
not
we talked
original
about.
to me. I didn't come up with that.
Well, heck, I ain't heard it before.
Well, somebody else come up with it. But no, what's the take home with it? Well, one of a customer we share together, we work with, Mr. Roby there, we have to go through his data, and it is a lot of data. He's got a lot of different things going on his farm. We have to go through that, and we have to fine-tune a plan based off that. So it goes back to what I'm saying, is what Caleb said. You can't try too many things at once. One thing at a time, you got to find out what works.
You only have so many R&D dollars on the farm for, as many years as you can be farming. Was that good 40 years? Maybe before you're in a wheelchair or whatever happens. Not you personally.
So I was visiting with a grocery store owner the other day talking about it. If you farm 40 years, you got 40 analytic points to reset. If you're running a normal business, he said, well, I reset mine every Wednesday. We readjust from the week prior.
And I wonder what his profit margin is too compared to ours.
Well, it's better. It's much better. And so it's but it's relevant. But here we are. We only get 40, probably 40 chances to make an adjustment. So
You do a lot of congregating around people who aren't necessarily farmers, and that might attribute to some of your success, though, because you have different vantage points of this thing. You might be a businessman who happens to farm.
Yeah.
I've always said Caleb Dinwiddie, he's a farmer, yes, but he has the mind of a businessman. I just got done with my undergrad in business school, but I can just tell he is more of a businessman than you are a farmer. And it's just, I think that benefits you more in the long run than most actually realize.
You're still farming. Some people down the road probably aren't.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank y'all. But, it's, so I've never done anything. I've never had a job, never done anything else. So
But
it's
worked every day of your life.
Yeah. And, it's, farming's the only thing that offers you that, I guess, pretty much probably. But at the same time, yeah, at the end of the day, this is a business, and it does not matter. It's no different than any other business out here, but we happen to be touching food, which to me is right there with water and air and then maybe food.
Because you're ultimately touching all of those things too.
So, as a consumer, we need to be worried about all that and the above. And, it's just kind of like, I don't want my person that's providing my food suffering. Just like if I'm going in for surgery, I don't want my surgeon worried about his Macy's bill,
Hey, who shops at Macy's?
Okay, yeah.
Is that still a thing?
I don't know. Walmart. There
You
we
don't do
go.
any of your Christmas shopping?
Maybe I should leave all that off, but at the same time, you want everybody who's a part of the system to get to have a decent wage, a decent margin.
For your constituency, then, for those who farm, for those who are in this county, for those who listen to this, as a farmer, talking to farmers, what do you tell them about data then when they know there's so much of it? Like your takeaway.
Yeah. So you can get from it what you want.
Ah, there it is right there. That's it.
Yeah. And, you know, the data that I'm personally involved in on the farm, I have a better understanding of than the data that the agronomist hands me. Mm-hmm. So you got to do the work yourself to really know what it is.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
and there's ain't enough time to do enough of that.
Yeah.
You only got so many crops to put out, as Chad Elkins says.
Yep.
I think for me, it's just having autonomy on the farm. So we've been so used to, trusting, whether that be our seed advisors or our chemical reps or the co-op, what have you, whoever's making a lot of your applications, is being able to have autonomy on the farm is very important for me. So if you don't necessarily know how to go through that data and understand it, be able to break it down, find someone that you trust to be able to do that. Find some type of trusted advisor that can be in any walk of life to be able to break some things down for you, to make sure what we're doing on the farm is giving us a return, but maybe helping, everyone around us, helping our family, helping the environment. So autonomy on the farm is huge. Make sure we understand what's going on our farm, because farmers have such a big impact on what everybody else is doing, in every walk of life. And that's a very powerful position to be in. They're not going to their cubicle and their 9 to 5. They're working day in and day out to provide for the world.
Oh, yeah.
There's no life in the absence of soil.
Absolutely. So,
Yeah. It's a living.
It is. Full-time job.
Yep.
Alrighty, y'all. Well, thank y'all so much for joining me this week. Y'all tune in for the next episode, and don't forget, if you're a premium member, to look out for bonus content. Thank you for tuning in to the Root Cause Podcast. We hope today's topic of the role of data in modern farming has inspired you to think differently about your farm's decisions and yield improvements. Till next time, keep an eye on our socials.